You know what? My next guest is an infantry soldier from the United States Army, veteran of Operation Enduring Freedom in Afghanistan, and a Purple Heart recipient. Brian Fleming. Welcome, my friend. How are you? Welcome, welcome.
It's great to be here.
Now, when you joined the Army, did you realize you were going to end up on TV one day? Was that part of the plan, or did the recruiter ever tell you that?
Well, you see, that's the thing about the Purple Heart. You never intend on getting one.
Yeah,
it's not
right.
the most sought after, but unfortunately, I do have one, and I wear it proudly.
Yeah, well, and again, we're going to talk about that. Now, take me back a little bit. Were you raised in a Christian home growing up?
Yes, I was. I was raised in a Christian home in Jackson, Michigan, and I basically known my entire life. I had a pretty basic belief in God, Jesus Christ, and it was when I was 16, when I was living in Fort Lauderdale, Florida, that I really had my life turned around.
Yeah.
That, I believe, that decision when I was 16 years old has everything to do with me sitting here today,
Amen.
living and breathing.
What led you to want to join the Army? I mean, why not go into computers or, you know, do something else? Why the Army?
Well, basically, I hadn't intended on doing it until my senior year of high school, and I just felt the calling from God, and I realized that there were many great men in our past, in our history of our country, that had made sacrifices and died and shed a lot of blood so we may have our freedom that we enjoy every day. And I just felt as if I would be a hypocrite not to contribute at least a few years of my life to that cause of freedom. Because I've been to many other parts of the world, and there is no place like America.
That's right. No, that's exactly right. In fact, you know, America has a lot of faults. We have a lot of critics. But you know what? We must be doing something right.
Absolutely.
Because there's hundreds of millions from all over the world that are trying to get in and want to come here. So we must be doing something right. And again, these men and women that defend America, they're the ones that they're the foundation of kind of our freedoms. Tell me what happened April 18th, 2006.
April 18th, 2006 was the first time I was ever inside a vehicle that got blown up.
Tell me about that.
Our
What
vehicle,
happened?
we were up in one of the southeastern provinces of Afghanistan. It was early morning. We had driven out, and I was in the lead vehicle of the convoy. And it was more or less instant. You don't really have time to react. We ran over an IED that was buried in the road. This terrain we were in was extreme.
IED, explain that. What is that?
An IED is an improvised explosive device. It's a homing bomb that the enemy makes, and they bury it in the road. And this terrain we were operating in was very, very rugged, and there's only basically one road in and one road out, the one we took in. We knew that, and the enemy knew it too. And during the night, he went out there in the pitch black, and he planted an IED in the road. And the next day, that morning we left out, our vehicle ran it over. It blew up our vehicle. It burned it down to the skeleton. There was nothing left of it. And we had to medevac 2 guys out of there. Both survived and both returned to duty a month later.
Yeah.
And
well, we understand too. I mean, there's the concept of lightning striking twice, because you were not really injured in that first one. I'm sure you're very shook up. But
I walked away without a scratch on me from that first one.
man, talk about the hand of God. But then, just a few months later, July 24th, what happened?
We were driving down the road, and we were heading towards one of the main bases in southeastern Afghanistan in Kandahar. And funny thing, God sometimes has a funny way of saying no, because I'm infantry now. I had planned on becoming EOD, which is explosive ordnance disposal. I had to go down there to get something changed on my records because there was an error.
Yeah.
Well, they play with bombs, basically the bomb squad. Well, blown up on the way, and I decided I don't want to play with bombs anymore.
Yeah,
I don't want to,
that changed my mind
like God will
too.
do the ministry thing. It's all right, I understand.
Now okay. Now this second one, you were injured. Tell me about that.
I was injured. There was a suicide bomber driving a minivan. He had a whole lot of explosives, including white phosphorus and artillery rounds, especially. And I was in the front passenger seat of this vehicle, and he pulled it beside me, unknown to myself or anybody else. It was just a vehicle. And instantly, in the blink of an eye, everything went from being boring and all right and quiet to me waking up on the side of the road My helmet was somewhere. My weapon was somewhere. I had a fountain of blood pouring out of my face. The skin on both of my hands was burned off to the 3rd degree, as well as my face was mostly 2nd degree, and also wrapped around the back of my neck was 2nd and 3rd degree.
Now you're laying there. What went through your mind at that point? Tell me about that.
Well, the first thing that went through my mind, there it is. The first thing that went through my mind was, why would I go to sleep here? I had a pretty bad concussion, and I had no idea why I was laying on the side of the road in Afghanistan.
Yeah.
It took me a couple of seconds to realize I was still in Afghanistan. But then I just started to wander around, just kind of dazed. I had no clue what had taken place.
Yeah. How does God work in a situation like that? Tell me about.
Well, I'm just going to say that prayer is extremely powerful, and if you don't know what else you can do for the soldiers to support, you can pray. Amen. Because I want to tell you about what prayer did in both of those explosions. The first one, we'd been on the mission for about 2 or 3 days, at least, and the vehicle got blown up. Well, I returned back home to the home base from that mission a day and a half or 2 days later after that. Well, I received an email from my mother in there, and in it she said, "Brian, I don't want to freak you out. This might sound odd, but a few days ago I had this strange feeling. I needed to pray for your protection." She talked about God's Shekinah glory as the Bible details it and defines it. And she didn't really know what that was, but she was praying it by faith because she had that strong feeling. She was up in New York. She was driving to the grocery store at 4 in the afternoon, and she had that feeling, and she began praying for me. It was just hours before my vehicle ran over that IED. And the second time, it was 20 days prior to me getting blown up that second time. My wife was in Fort Worth, Texas with her family, and she felt God telling her to fast and pray for my safe return home. Well, she started fasting and praying, but she prayed for the end of July specifically. And here's the funny thing. I got blown up on the 24th of July, and I was in San Antonio, Texas at Brooke Army Medical Center 3 days later. So God does indeed answer prayer, but I just ask her to be a little more specific when she prays.
Yeah, that's right.
Nonetheless, He answered that prayer, and I am living, and I'm alive.
Amen.
And God has just used that as a launching platform and His purpose for my life.
You know what? You said something very important, and it's very true. You know, we may not all know what organizations to support or who to donate to or what Army, base to go help out, but we can all pray as Christians. Should we do that every day?
Absolutely. It's the difference between life and death for some of us.
Yeah.
And I thank everybody who's ever prayed for soldiers once. Thank you, because I'm still here because of that.
Amen. Amen. That's good. Good. And we just got a shot of your precious wife there. You're covered, dude, because you got a praying mama too and a praying wife.
They're the two most important women in my life,
That's
and I
right.
think you can understand why.
You're in good shape.
And I want to commend her real quick.
Yeah.
I just want to let you know, when I was burned, when my face was charred black, and I mean, when she saw me when I was in the hospital, my face had been wrapped up when she came in, and my nose and my lips were charred black. They were bloody. They were just disgusting. I wouldn't even lick my lips because it was gross.
Yeah.
Well, she leaned over and she said, "I want to kiss you." And I said, "I understand if you don't want to." I said, "You don't have to, honestly.
Yeah.
I understand."
Yeah.
Well, she leaned over and she kissed my burnt, charred, black, bloody lips. And on the way up, she had a little bit of blood right there, and so I wiped it off for her. But you know what? That's love. That's
Amen.
what God can bring you.
Amen.
That is love. I am so fortunate to have that in my life.
You know what? I don't think we honor, you're right, the wives of the servicemen as much, and husbands, because there's a lot of women overseas, and the husbands are taking care of things at home. So, thank you, and thank you for praying for this precious young man. We've only got about a minute left, but you get out pretty quick, right? As far as out of the Army?
I'll be out in 10 days.
10 days. And then, yeah. Everybody's going, yeah, that's cool.
You'll get there, I promise. It comes.
What's next in your ministry?
Next, I will be working full-time with Dave Reaver, which you'll have on here in a few minutes. And he's the Eagle Summit Ranch program to train injured soldiers like myself in public speaking, evangelism, you name it. The guy has a wealth of experience in many years, and I'm just so privileged to have the opportunity to work with that caliber of person.
Yeah.
It was definitely a God thing.
Amen. Amen. You know what? Continue to pray for Brian Fleming. Put him in your Bible somewhere, because even though he's heading out of the Army, he's now going to be a warrior in the army of God, and he's going to have a wonderful effect in changing the lives of men and women, young and old. And we just want to say thank you and honor
Thank you, sir.
again for what you've done. And again, I think the word sacrifice becomes a little inadequate, and thank you for the sacrifices that you made for our country.
Thank you for the support.
God bless
you.
you.
Thank you.
All right.